So somebody asked me about this script in this last video where I'm dropping this order. And it's Australian dollar. And I just keep dropping this massive order that buys every 5 pips. I thought it was 80 pips deep on that video, but I'm actually buying every 5 pips. So it's a little ridiculous. And I have a master stop on there just because I wanted to see what happens in a demo account. I want to see in the most ridiculous scenarios. And then, you know, you can always, season to taste after that. Of course, some of the stuff is unfillable, and depending on how long these orders last. Now here, this one I was dropping in the video, which originally this would be a news script. Here's your key to the how long it lasts right here. Now, if you put in a number here, if I put in here H, capital H, the MT4 is going to try to help me complete this, and it's going to come up with 2 suggestions. And if you click on any of these, it's going to screw it up because it's going to wipe out the word period all over again. And it's saying here that you can only do H1 and H4, but that's not true. There was a point a couple of years ago when MT4 was updated with parts of MT5 in it, and actually you'd see H2, H3, H4, H6, H8, and H12 show up as suggestions here, and then they updated it again, wiped out that kind of helping menu that jumps up here, and that's I thought it was gone, and I thought, damn. And it was actually part of MT5 coming into MT4, and well, it turns out that just because they're not shown here doesn't mean it won't run. If I put in H1, it's going to be blue. If I put in H3, it's going to gray out. But it will compile. If I put in H7, it will not compile. So it's kind of bizarre. They left the code behind. They left the ability to do it behind because it's sharing part of MT5's time frames, because MT5 you can do strange time frames. I don't know. If you go for M, capital M, which is for the minutes, here's the suggestions. Now, there's not a lot of brokers that'll let you. I haven't found a broker that lets you run an M5 script, because by the time you launch that puppy, it's like, well, it's ready to be canceled. And somebody told me once, it's so cute. Oh, the broker doesn't want to see that on their. I'm like, come on, the banks don't want to see that on their. I'm like, listen, you're going through a broker, but this is 1 month. So if you really believe in the trade, right? Is this 1 month, like I'll get around to deleting that thing. So, but the 15, the 30, and the 1 hour is definitely a big deal. So if I made this M30, and of course it'll have color to it because it's acceptable, and it compiles. Now this is all these tickets here. I can turn these on and off just by deleting the forward slashes and create any kind of complicated scenarios. Just bottomless pit. And also it's kind of broker dependent, because if I set this, this is the entry, this is the stop, and this is the take profit. If I set this too tight and your broker doesn't let you trade inside the spread, in other words, when you go up to your order placement window for a pending order that says orders must be 0 pips away, it means that you can trade inside the spread. So you can coffee machine's a little bit. Coffee machine's angry. So you can. That's why I talk slow. My coffee. So it's a bottomless pit, and some brokers will not fill you if this is too tight unless you can trade inside the spread. Now, maybe you don't want to get into. I've seen these people say, well, you know, when it goes up. The problem I have with that is that, well, you either want to get in or you don't, you know. If you just put open position buy here, take the word stop out and compile that, it's just going to get in at the market. And I don't think this would actually, even though it compiled, I don't know if this will run because I still got this and I have to delete that out. I usually just copy what I know runs. Because this is inconsequential now. This doesn't matter now. Because there is no, hey, get me in at X. So the let's just put this back to full upright position. Even there, the MT4 is trying to help me. This is what's little stuff that comes up in the suggestion box. But this one is about, somebody asked me about this giant order I dropped. And, well, the thing is, he asked me if it, he wants to know if each order has its own individual stop. Yeah, it does, actually. And the thing is it's a master stop. But he was worried about the risk-reward ratios. Well, here, it's pretty terrible. And especially if you buy every 5 pips. This thing's all hard coded. This is like when you launch this, it's going to put all these orders in, and it's really scenario dependent. Like if you think, oh, you know, this market trades in a 20 pip range, hell, I'll throw this thing in, and maybe the market's going to come down here. So you're going to buy 5 pips, and this one you're going to buy 5 pips deep. You're going to buy the ask. 5 pips below where we're at. So if the market's trading right now, here's the ask and here's the bid. And what you see on your screen is the bid all the time. All those candles are built on the bid. The ask price is where they'll fill you. So when you drop this, you're going to see if this is minus 5 pips, this has got to come down. The bid can't just come down and hit that. The ask has to come down and cut into that to fill you. Now, if the news comes out and the spread is like this and the market rockets down, they may not fill you because, you know, just because it went through that, it looks like it went through that. You're like, oh, some people are like, oh, slippage. No, it's the fact that the spread was so wide for a moment there, it didn't fill. So if you did drop this during the news, there's a possibility that maybe you only fill this top order. So the ratio here is terrible. If you put a master stop here at 60 pips deep, you're going to buy 40 pips deep. This here is a break-even order. So market comes smacking down, 40 pips, fills, the stops here, it comes retraces here, you're out. Here's your take profit. Here's your stop. Here's your entry. So it's always, the syntax here is always enter price, stop price, and take profit. And it's funny because when I first saw this, I thought, well, I hate getting stopped out. Why do they have to tell me about the stop first? I'd rather hear about it like, hey, enter, profit. I'm all about the profit. And then tell me about the stop later. Let's not worry about that. But that's just how the MT4 is going to read it. I think that's hard-coded. You can't change it. The other way to get around the risk-reward ratio problem is to, and I don't know why you'd want to do this, you'd probably have to go to a cent account to really trade this. And people say risk-reward ratios. Let's not forget that when people buy lottery tickets, you know, think about the risk to reward ratio on that. Let me, that's a whole different thing, right? So the lottery thing, people buy lottery tickets because the ratio is bad, but in other words, the ratio is good, but the chances are really low. But it's really about the money, and nobody talks about money. There's not a video on YouTube. If there is one, there's only one guy out there. He's oh God, I can't pronounce his name. But he talks about, hey, you know what? You're risking, like, what do you usually eat for lunch? Do you eat a $10 lunch at a restaurant? Okay, so you're risking lunch on this trade, $10. And I don't know why nobody talks about money. And I guess it's a kind of a penis thing. Like, how big is your dick? Well, I'm trading like a standard. And if somebody's like, whatever they're trading, and somehow that's just not, it's weird. I don't know. There's another problem with trading is that it attracts a bunch of polite intellectuals. So you really can't get down and dirty. If you were in the hood trading, people would be like, what the heck? I mean, it's funny. Not a lot of people in the hood are trading. So the terrain and the education and the mentors, and when you think of mentor, you don't think of a crackhead, right? But a crackhead might be the best trader in the world because he just doesn't care, right? He's got a carefree attitude. So this is kind of a crackhead script. The thing is that if you do the math on this script, I don't think it's a good, right? I don't think it's that great. But I just kind of wrote this fast. Now, ideally, the way you'd write this is you'd make this last stop. And unfortunately, you cannot run these on the weekend unless anybody knows how to get MT4 to think it's getting a feed. To set up another computer in the room that's playing back the market, and your MT4 platform thinks it's getting a real feed from somewhere. I don't know. That's crazy. But if I set this to 500, the last stop here is 10 pips on this last order. If there was no spread, all these scripts are based on, I mean, when you do the math on these, unless you include the spread later, which is shipping and handling, you're looking at the, so if I make all of these, this is going to be 50 pip hard stop, master stop, or you go hard stop, and then that's going to improve the ratio right there. Now, for this top order to make money, oh, and another thing is that you could make this, to make the ratios better, you can make this a progressive, I guess I'm trying to think of terms to describe the way you could set this up. This would be a, say, progressive order. So now the deeper it goes, the more I buy. Now the nice thing about this, writing these scripts, is that it's a real bitch because, well, if you just like to not have to work. But the thing is that it makes you think about, well, it's really you're building trade plans. It's forcing you to think about it. Now, if I do it like this, it means that dollar-wise, and it's about the money, because if somebody's going to say, well, the risk-reward ratio sucks, I'm like, yeah, but it's a 50-cent risk. Who cares? Now, the risk-reward ratio on, say, standard lots, and I don't know what these people at Trade Empowered are trading. I get the feeling they're trading minis and half lots and all this stuff, and I just think that's ridiculous if you're an MT4, because why not, if you're really trading that big, and I don't know what this adds up to because I might have no math skill, but I don't know what this adds up to. If you add this up to, this is probably like 15K after I made it progressive. Now, I could make this a soft stop, or I could make each of these have their own stop. So it really is, if you wanted to keep this ratio on each of these the same all the way down, then you could do that. it's a bottomless pit of design. So you could have it so that market's plunging, you're coming into you're 250 pips down. And the reason I put a master stop in there, because I guess you'd have to call this a retracement. I don't know when the market's going to end, but if it goes below 50, I want out of everything. I used to trade without stops when I first started trading 6 years ago, and I found Forex because I've been trading on real exchanges before that, trading in the Chicago Board of Trade on a computer. I had a feed from the Chicago Board of Trade, and because I'm cheap, I noticed that that was the cheapest place to trade in the world. If you wanted to trade on the COMEX out of New York, it would cost you $80 a month just to see the gold market. So forget that I don't own a gold mining company. So the cheapest place to trade was Chicago Board of Trade, which allowed you to trade the bond market and the grains, and you could trade some mini, if you wanted to, some mini S&Ps or something. Or you had this Globex, which was like this 24-hour kind of thing. And when I saw Forex, I thought it was a scam. Not a scam for losing money, but I thought, no, they're going to let me trade without paying exchange fees. They're going to let me trade without depositing $5,000. They're going to let me trade. I mean, they're going to let me trade with zero commissions. Like, what? That can't be true. And you know, I was paying $25. I was paying $35 round turn to trade one 5,000 bushel contract of corn at Chicago Board of Trade. So I had to be right about that trade by at least $100. And it was brutal because you had to call the trade in on a fucking telephone. So, you know, when I saw this, I said, oh my God, I don't know if people realize, and I guess the older you get, you always sound like one of those old people going, people don't realize what you had to do before in the old days. But people don't realize how good they have it. If you can hit a button and drop these many orders in under one, I'd say this on some brokers, in 1 second, all these orders are in. Now, when the news comes out and there's that 30-second, well, it's about 5 seconds, the market goes, bam, the spreads are super wide. As soon as they tighten up, you drop this. Now, if that's not high frequency trading out of your own, you know, hut, out of your own house, nothing is. Like, you just can't, you could never, there's no way you could pick up the phone, call your broker and go, hey, listen, and they'd be like, listen, you think you're going to get your little baby order in? We got, you know, Bear Stearns on the trading floor, they're getting their tickets. So, you know, this is the most fair, like, you can be some slob somewhere on the planet launching this script on some schlock broker. And there's over 500 brokers now on the planet. This one guy with the video, there's 2 good brokers. I'm like, dude, I don't even care if they got, like, well, can you trust your money? Can you trust your money over Bear Stearns or these people that what about El Pari? What about these brokers, these big name brokers where you're trading like your leverage is like 10-1 and they wiped out your whole account, they're gone, they've left, they're in the Bahamas. There is no guarantees in life. You can wake up this morning and have a complete stroke. You know, you could hit by a meteor. Where are you gonna put that on your risk to reward ratio? But the thing is, you can, on a demo account, you'd be surprised. Now, when I started trading Forex, I didn't trade with stops because I'm like, well, I was in demos, and I'm like, fucking, even when I traded real money, I'm like, I've only got $200 in this account. I mean, I had to put $5,000 in. And these guys, Refco was sued later on. I had to put money in that account. This here, you know, this, it's about money. So if you've got $1 million, like these people say, but then it's all psychological because if you're down 20 cents and you're down $200, there's a part of your brain that doesn't recognize amounts of money. you're just thinking, I'm losing, and I'm in a loss. And depending on how nitpicky you are, like how there's a whole spectrum of people out there. But a lot of people attracted to finance accountants are like, well, I don't want to be down. If I'm off 1 cent, I'll be up all night looking for the mistake. And there, you know, trading's more than just like if it was that easy. Like nothing. If that easy, everybody would do it. Well, if it was that easy to disregard your character and your feelings and everything you've learned and everything you know to be true, and proceed into something where you're going to do something like build a script and stuff, that it's going to come into that. You can't separate yourself from, you know, you wish you could be like an android, but that's why the people build the EAs. But all the EAs are built around your fears and hopes too. So if you have wide stops on your EA because you're afraid to get stopped out and you know it's a good trade, you're gonna do the same thing here. If you write this script based on taking a lot of risk, then hey, you're taking a lot of risk right here, but you can see it. And you can also, nice thing about trading with scripts is you don't have this thing where you can actually go back and figure out, well, what was the cause of that? How did I blow that account up? Whereas if you just trade manually and you just wing it on everything, you're going to have a hard time doing the forensics and figuring out, well, what the hell was I running that day? Because the other night I was running this script in the British in the pound against the yen, the guppy, and God, I was making money. And I was half asleep. Every 2 hours I'd launch one of these things, and only because, and of course it wasn't this exact script. It was more of a really tight range. But it was because the market just was doing this stuff, and it was cashing out of, these take profits were tighter, and it had a master stop, but I would say an end of the world stop. Like the people that, like I said, money that I made when I started trading, I made thousands of dollars because I didn't trade with a stop. That was all well and good until one of my friends committed suicide, one of my psycho babes, and I was like, I don't care about anything, you know. I just lost my fun, my playmate, and so I just walked away from. I was in the euro and just wiped out thousands of dollars because I had no stop, and I just didn't care, and the market just started tanking, and I'm like, whatever. And I knew I could make it back, so I didn't care. And but can this thing make money? And of course, people would say, now for all the people with the pencil behind their ear are going to say, well, look at dude, you keep trading like that, you're going to blow up. You're going to eventually, of course. But what if $5? What if this is a cent account and you're risking $5 to make $10? And you really don't much care about $5. And of course, you can overtrade that, and that's $50 now. If you hit this button 10 times to launch this array, and if you don't wait, the key here is that if the market's like this and you drop this, now you've got an array, and then the market plunges and you drop the same script. Now you got two arrays that overlap. You got this. Here's this insane capture, and here's another insane capture, and they both have master stops. Market's coming down, blows through both. Okay, you know what? British pound is going off the rails right now. You have to have some consideration to, like, say you were netting fish. This is like netting fish as opposed to getting a what Akil Stokes and these empowered trading people are doing is they're going out with, they have a fly fishing pole and they're fly fishing and they're just looking for that one big fish, and they just, you know, well, this is netting fish here. This is like, hey, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen, so I'm just going to throw all these orders out there and, you know, damn the torpedoes, let this thing come down here. Now, in a perfect world, it comes down to the 40. It doesn't go to the 50 master stop, retraces the whole bank, and not only does it retrace on here to 0 point, when you drop this script, you're here. This is minus 50. This is going to make plus 40. This is designed for a complete news auction day. Look at any NFP, look at any of these big reports. What you'll see is this is the previous day's bar. The news comes out. Market plunges down, takes out the low of the day, comes up here, dicks around, blows out the high of the day. And it could even come back here and finish here. You can look at it, go to the 5-minute charts, and you'll see that kind of behavior. And here's the, people are like, well, with the breakout, if you're trading the daily breakout, and this is a 100 pip bar, that's why I can't imagine trading a breakout on a 100 pip bar, because you have to put in a 100 pip stop based on breakout rules. And so here, if you are on a 5-minute chart and you trade a breakout, oh well, you haven't even hit the high of the day yet and you've already made money. So breaking out of a 5 or a 15, half hour, 1 hour, okay, 4 hour, daily, I don't know. I want to be in that trade watching it break through the daily going, okay, well, you know what? I'm ready to get the fuck out, because they're about to punch through the high of yesterday by 1 pip, and then that's it. It's going to go down. So you want to get in the middle here, or at the bottom, even at the bottom here. Now, if you got a day job and here's the daily bar, make this like a real bar. Here's a daily bar, and you got a buy limit sitting here. They nick that, they tug it up your day job, and of course, where do you get out of that thing? Do you get out along the way, scaled out? Did you get in? Did you have a bunch of buy limits down here? Now, it's literally a bottomless pit of possibility. You also could make this a logarithmic script where you're going to buy here. So we're going to cancel out this ticket. You're going to buy this ticket, and you're going to buy this ticket and this ticket only. So you're buying in a 5 pip window down here. You got this. You're going to make this 100. Or this ratio is already good here, right? You're going to risk 10 to make 20. Here you're going to risk 15 to make 15. So it's break even. So, but if you want to make this, the maximum, it's about money. So if you're going to trade really big down here, maybe you want this stop to be too tight, but like if this is the guppy, 10 pips, they're going to blow you out. If this was a script for the euro, maybe, right? But you don't, you have to put a realistic here. So let's put, that's why I put 20 pips on there. This is a retracement strategy. This is not a breakout. In a breakout scenario, you want tight stops. It breaks out. You don't want to have a stop down here. They're going to chop you to death. Whipsaw you, fill all those legs and everything. But it's based on market conditions. You don't sail. If you go sailing a boat in a storm, you want a ship. You don't want a boat. When you get into a breakout situation, you want that tight stop, because you're going to stream out of all these orders on the way out. So somebody asked me about the breakout thing. I'll do a breakout thing later, but this is the limit thing. And this is what I would call a Super Ball trade. Here's 0, the market's here. You fill this bank here, and market only goes down 15 pips. And it starts to go up. Now here the ratios are terrible, but you're making, I don't know what this is, you're making 300 and you're making 35 pips on this one ticket. You're making 35 pips. You're risking, maybe you're risking 35 pips. Now, you could make this a soft stop where, and of course this is just because if you normally trade, the whole point of this script is if you normally trade a standard lot, why aren't you just trading 1Ks all the way down? Right, so if you go like this, make these 1Ks, that's 8K total. Market comes down into this order bank, and market only comes to here. We don't, you know, and you don't. If you know where the market's gonna stop, then email me later. Because for all the analysis in the world, the markets can just, especially if you're going into uncharted water where you've never been there before. Australia, New Zealand, if you go look at that chart, I feel like last year or something, it went where it's never gone before, I think, unless my data doesn't go back that far. And when that happens, you know, there's really no end to it. I don't think they can go to zero, but, you know, that's a lot of money, but it's about money in the end. So if you have enough money and you're like, okay, what if you have stops in there? They blow you out and whatever. Hopefully you've got more than one trading account. I mean, if you really, but a lot of people don't do that. They think that trading accounts are like girlfriends. I only got one girlfriend, you know. Or maybe it's too much to manage. Or maybe they have a day job, but I guess if you're a real serious trader, but they have different brokers, different accounts, one instrument per broker, usually, because this way, if you want to clean off some of these orders that you don't like, they're too close to the market, you can get to those orders easy because you can scroll down and arrange all your orders by price, and you can see, okay, I got to get rid of this inventory. Got too much down here. If they fill that, if the market smashes down to fill that, and I've had it where I'm thinking, man, if they fill that, and then, you know what? It never even made it down there. The market never even went down there. So if you put if everything here was double your money, sure, this is going to be 50 and this is going to be minus 200, and you would just run that all the way up. But this is for people that trade it. This is an 8K. You're just going to hit this button, and you know, hey, it's 8K here, and you throw it on some other currency pair, but it's got to fit the ATR of that currency, or what you suspect. If you want to canvas an area on the chart, because you see that there's that void, market's been going up, and you know there's a hole forming underneath, so you start putting in these buy limits because you're like, well, if they dip it down, and if you're one of these trend continuation people, how do you get into these trends? Well, you certainly don't want to buy here, even though if you're right in the long run, you want to get in on pullbacks. So this might be your pullback entry thing. The other thing is you drop this here. When the market comes down to right about here, 25 pips, and comes back up, this one is cashing out here. So this is the end of the world stop in some regards, and but that's how I made a lot of money, because now had I put in when my playmate blew herself up, had I put in stops and walked away, I probably wasn't even going to trade anyways, because I was thinking I was just in a pool of tears. But you know, it would have just blown through that, and you know, I would have saved like, you know, $15,000 or whatever. I had across I was running 5 brokers, because this is back when you could trade in the United States, and you know, this Frank Dodd stuff was really the creation. I think a lot of people realize that. I think that was lobbied. The creation of Dodd-Frank was lobbied by, well, do-gooder fucknuts, plus people that worked at the Chicago Board of Trade that said, I cannot believe Like, who didn't know in the industry that you could trade for free, literally, Forex? I was trading out of Russia, gold one night. Some broker called Exness, which they kicked me out. I was trading 1,001 leverage and trading gold. I'd opened the account and I was trading in 1 hour. Deposited with my credit card. I was like, I can't even believe this. Is this even possible? I was trading crude oil out of Cyprus, out of Windsor brokers. All these brokers kicked me out. There's only a handful of brokers left that will let you trade, and there's only a few countries on the planet that are free. You know, you go to Dominican Republic, you go to Panama, you go to Belize, you go to St. Vincent. That's it. That's all that's left. The rest of the world's a big fucking communist pit of shit. Just saying. Big control, big regulations. Oh, you know, and they were making this argument when they outlawed gold trading 4 years ago in the United States. Oh, we're trying to support the dollar. You can't trade silver and gold in the United States on a Forex platform. Outlawed that too. That wasn't part. I don't know if that was part of Frank Dodd-Frank, whatever the fuck it's called. And you're living in a regulation world. The only last hope for any trader on the planet is Forex. And you hear these. I watched a guy in a video saying that he likes to trade the. And this is just. I don't know. It's just. Not that my ego is on any type of diet, but the people that are talking like, well, I like to trade the E-mini because, you know, 1 point's worth $100. I'm like, dude, come on. Yeah, I mean, I got it. You're going to make $200 on that trade, but your stop is so tight, and you're sitting there on the 5-second bar chart. I'm like, hell, I can go to sleep, throw in these insane retraces, wake up with money. And I got this idea because one night I was manually trading off my phone, and I went to a party, and I was trading the euro against the yen, which moves like 200 to 300 pips in one day, maybe 400 pips. So I put some buy limits, hand placed, down in Disneyland, down at the very bottom, and lo and behold, 4 hours later I get filled, no stops. They're like 3K down there. I made $180. I'm coming back from this party, look at my phone to see, because basically the way I looked at it was, my orders were 300 pips and 200 pips deep. I thought, yeah, right, like they're going to fill these orders. They did. Within 3 hours, the market and the Asian session, I don't even know. I didn't even look at the chart, really. I was just like, hey, let's just throw some orders out there. And I got the hell out of these orders, and they would have made even more money had I stayed in, but I was so astounded that I could make all this money from just throwing orders really low didn't even use Fibonacci. Now that's, I could have put a stops on it. Now I might have got stopped out. I don't even know how tight the stop was, but that's why this script and the style of trading, and like I said, it's about the money in the end, because if you can afford this to get blown out, and you know the right scenario to drop this, now conservatively, you might want to place all these orders 10 pips away from each other and only put in a 4-pack. But it's, you know, it is really, or you just want to have each of these be a duplicate ratio. The duplicate take profit. Or this top one here is, but this is designed for one of those days where you start off here, plunges, and actually goes up and takes out where you got in. This is that 400 exit, 440 pips. And it's really, it's just so much stuff you can do. Now, you could also, and this is not a single drop order, you can do single precision drops. I would recommend anybody, whether you're gonna trade this or not, do single drops, because a single drop order is just more precise. And precision, you know, you really want to have a cluster of orders around a really key area, which this won't do unless you've got so many of these written that you can drop one that says, oh, well, it's just going to imagine that this first ticket says buy 200, buy 20 pips deep, 22 pips deep, all the way to 40. It's a very dense pack. The market's trading up here. And maybe they don't even fill that market. But it's basically in a really tight stop. So what if you had, I'm going to buy 40 pips deep, 45, 50 with a stop here. And if you wrote this script like this, the market's trading up here right now. And you have found the problem is that these three orders aren't going to be in the right spot. It's very difficult to get these to be in the right spot just by saying I'm going to hit a button. So I really think that if you have precision placed orders at key levels, like say the market's going like this, well, you're going to put your buy limit here, right? Your buy limit here, your buy limit here, and buy limit here, and the market's going to come down and maybe fills this guy and goes up. But what if it comes down, crushes through there, fills this one, and this is the winning trade? This is really designed for, hey, I don't know, I want to put in these hand-placed orders that I know are real key levels where tops became bottoms, but just in case, I also want to just canvas a really broad area. And maybe you run that on a different broker, different account. But this idea of canvassing an area with a master stop, say, it's one style. There's probably, you know, like these guys I play music with, I said to them, why haven't I heard of this genre? You've heard of acid jazz, or I don't know if anybody's into music, but like there's genres out there, right? There's rap, you know. Well, where's country rap? Is country rap out yet? Where's the hybrid? Where is you know, how about metal country? Anybody doing metal country or country metal? No. So you got, like, you know, you got country, but it's with metal drums. It's probably coming, right? Because people are going to get bored. And they're like, oh, you know, did you hear that new country rap song? I think Steven Tyler from Aerosmith had Walk This Way. He did it with rap people. But I think you got to think outside the proverbial box. You got to have a different approach, because everything you see out there is so ridiculously. People are just handing the same stupid. It's almost like these traders are like cavemen handing around the same club they used to kill. Well, this is the club we're using, and I got it. You know, baseball bats are. I don't know if there's a regulation on baseball bat dimensions or tennis rackets. But imagine you show up to the tennis match with a big fucking racket, which is what this is. They're going to say to you, you can't do that. But see, in Forex, you can do stuff like that. I don't know if that answers the question. But, because it's hard. But, yeah. But what this guy said, his question was, and I'm going to have to read into his question here. This guy's like super polite. I think this guy's got to be Asian. Not the profile, but these Asian people are so fucking polite. They're dressed up in damn tuxedos to go down to the party store to get beer. But he says, does each of those orders have its own individual stop? And then in parentheses he says, you know, to maintain a good risk-reward ratio, as if, you know, Like, I know that that matters to people. And, but like I said, again, risk to reward ratios, when you're out buying a new, there's this comedian that says he goes into the store, he goes into the ice cream shop, a yogurt shop, and he's going to buy yogurt. And he's going to try a new flavor, and they've got these little testers there. And some lady in front of him is like, oh, let me see that. Let me taste that. He's like, fuck that. He goes, listen, I just buy it. I'm going to spend $2 on this. If I buy it and I don't like the flavor, I'm like, fuck it. I'll eat it or I'll throw it out. I'm not going to hold up the whole line of people to sit here and taste to see if I really like it. Like you're going to make an investment in this one thing. So each one of these tickets to me is just like, I mean, hopefully you got enough money that you're like, whatever, let them blow that out. But I just don't know how people are going to manage. Who's making money on these things where the market's coming down? Well, I got my cipher here, right? So I'm going to buy right here, and oh man, and you not the problem with this whole Batwing shit is that you're waiting for this pattern to form. Well, you don't have to wait here. You just throw all these fucking orders out here, and whether that's the A, B, the C, the D, we don't give a fuck. It fills and it goes the other way, and boom, you're out. And especially during noise phase. So in the noisy markets, I'm thinking of UZEB, the band UZEB, Noisy Nights. Anybody listen to that one? Great fusion, great jazz fusion. But here's on the chart here. So in the real world, this is the last video closing of the Australian dollar. Spread closes at 61 there. So in a real world scenario here, all this chatter here, I don't know. Imagine this is imagine you drop the order here and it's going to start buying on a grid like this, and your master stop is way down there. And you're like, yeah, how far can this thing possibly go? But you don't want to blow up your account for real, you know. I mean, risk of like end of the world stop. I don't know if anybody ever watched I can't remember her name, this girl that trades. And she has the end of the world stop. It's like Linda Brashford or something like that. I don't know. And then the thing is that hand placing an order here is definitely the way to go. So these hard-coded scripts aren't so good at that, because unless you know, oh, I'm going to drop, it's better just to, I think everything's better done by hand, right? Like you don't want to get a robot to have sex with, because it might be too strong. You might get hurt. Whereas if you have a real if you have somebody do it by manual, somebody by hand is you're on a date, they're going to gauge the amount of punishment you can take. So that's always going to be the better thing, is to put the buy limit here, by hand here based on previous tops, and maybe you do lay in just a random. And a lot of people are like, well, you can't just randomly. Yeah, but you can. And of course, if this is spread out where you want to get in, but you don't want to have to work too hard, and that's the reason I guess people are trading these standard lots, is they don't want to sit there and place 100 single drops. But here you could place, say you're going to trade a 25K. Imagine you put every 10 pips, you're buying one case, all the way down to an unfillable level. You're never going to get stopped out of that. And of course, when the market, it's kind of just a convenience to get into something somewhere, right? You know something's going to drop. If something's in the process of dropping right now, if it's dropping super fast, then maybe you have a script that you wrote called 50 to 250. So if you rewrote the script where it buys every 25 pips, but the nice thing about MT4, and I don't know if there's a limit to the scripts here, there might be, because one time I loaded so many in here that I couldn't get some of the scripts to show up, so there might be a limit here. But you just open another computer and put more scripts in there. But in here, like, these are all drops. This is the first version of this I had, it was a single drop. But down here, these are all hard-coded to buy on limits. And you just keep cloning these, just save as. So this one I called like a buy trend. Now this does have a soft stop, or the stop is different for each ticket. So these guys are different. And this is kind of like 7.5 pips below current, 17.5, 27.5. This is going to make 17.5 with a 15 stop. This is going to get out. This is going to make 20 pips with a 15 stop. So these ratios are good, but you know, these wild ratios really, not a lot of those trades per week. There may be risk 20 to make 80 at one moment in the week. When the market comes down, typically on a Wednesday, market gets down to the edge of the range here, and then goes back up and finishes the week unchanged. You end up with a hammer on the weekly. But right on Wednesday, maybe this is Tuesday, and then they just nick that thing. That's an incredible ratio. But to see that ratio on one of these things is probably going to be more like, well, the market went down 20 pips and it went up 15. My stop was here. Amazing ratios, but not a lot of pips. That's another thing. You hear people talking about, 1,000 pips. I'm like, dude, if you're making 20 pips a day and you're trading 3 standard lots, you're making as much money as the guy that made 1,000 pips in a mini. I don't know if the math's exact there, but you see how it's ridiculous to talk about pips. It's about money. Nobody talks about money. I don't get it. Nobody talks about money. So the master stop versus the linear stop, or the ratios that, if each one of these, the ratio stays the same, double your money or even triple your money. It is true that when the market goes smashing down and it cuts through, blows out 2 of these orders, and the last one survives, you're going to make back, because if the ratios are risk 1 to make 5, if you risk 1 to make 5, then you can rest assured that, and of course it comes down to money again, if you can afford this order to be blown out and wiped out. The beauty of this is that you have a known risk when you hit the button. So if you know that, or when you hit that, when you launch this thing, you know you're risking $5 potentially to make $40 or $15, whatever there. But it's not like you can just throw that out and be like, oh, I'm going to risk, my ratios are good, so therefore. No. If the market's plunging 200 pips every hour, then the ratios don't matter, because they're just going to cream every one of those tickets. They're going to bust through them. You might even get slippage if it's collapsing at a psychotic rate. So, anyways, but I'll try to, and I can put this psycho script in the comment here. The one that's with the master stop. And you can launch it on your screen. Now you can just adjust to taste the, so I'm going to put that in the comment section of where this guy asked this after publish this video. He's the only one asking, and people probably wondering. But every time you edit, you want to compile. This should go back to the other. Here's the psycho script. I just call it C2 because this is on a program keyboard. I'm running this G86 keyboard. If anybody's into that, I find that to be a lot better than double clicking sometimes. But anyways, yeah, it's certainly there's certainly no end to it. Of course, you don't have to put, you could put depending on your broker, this could be 10 orders all the way down 900 pips deep. Some of these markets, you know, if you're trading the Mexican peso, you're gonna have to adjust this whole thing, because this is like, it gotta be 400 pips deep, so it looks like 4,000 in here if you're on the peso for the same scenario to take place. But you're really trying to write for scenarios, and you could name the script retrace, psycho plunge retrace. I try to make the name small so that when I run it on a tablet, it doesn't take up screen space. So I try to come up with a system. That was another thing, is that once you create this library of orders, I suppose, and it's really just about orders, because if you can accommodate the market through all its dimensions, this is how you're going to survive and make money, because you may not make money from your breakout trades, but what about your limit orders? So you got the limit guys going and the stop orders. Now the market orders, I would say, you got to babysit the market for that. You got to be there. The stop orders, you got to be there too. You really, unless, well, not really. If it's a 4-hour breakout and you're going to risk 20 pips, okay, you can place all that stuff before you go to sleep. But if you're watching the market and you have a hotkey that you can launch a buy stop, sell stop, you could just have one market's going up and you just have a trailing reversal running, trailing sell stop below it. And when they fill you, you're cashing out, and then maybe you have this order comes in with this limit grid, and you're cashing out of something, or maybe you're going to hold that whole thing. But this is another problem psychologically for a lot of people. They want to have where they're going to get in here, we're going to here, target met, trade over. But knowing that the market is like this, the market's not like this, it's like this. This is really designed to take advantage of this, the noise. So anyways, so I'm gonna do the breakout strategy next here.